The Russian Ministry of Defense has been warning for 2 weeks of a possible false flag operation by militants in Idlib using chemical weapons, a red line for the US and its allies. According to the Russian military, that possibility became clearer. Citing local residents in the town of Jizr al-Shugur, they claim camera crews on site have recorded footage of an alleged chemical attack by the Syrian government, including video of white helmets rescuers treating supposed victims. The footage, the MoD says, is to be sent to numerous channels imminently to justify a US-led military intervention. The US Department of Defense hasn't yet responded to us directly with comment on these claims, although the US has made their position clear in no uncertain terms.
Just so there's no confusion here, if the Syrian regime uses chemical weapons, we will respond very strongly.
Syrian armed forces have no chemical weapons and no plans to use them. There is no military necessity for it.
We urge the international community to support our collective efforts to end serious use of chemical weapons, and we remain resolved to act if the Assad regime uses chemical weapons again.
Sensible people will not use militarily useless means to draw the fire of 3 powerful countries upon themselves.
We have all seen what the Syrian regime, backed by the Russian government, has done in the past. That should not be a surprise to anyone that that would be a concern of ours once again.
We have the impression that US threats against Damascus are aimed at preventing terrorists from being expelled there. It's not the first time the US, no matter which administration, has prioritized the task of changing dissident regimes above the common goals of eradicating terrorism and extremism.
A back and forth of accusations and denunciations. The US has been clear that any use of chemical weapons will be attributed to the Assad government and will result in military action. Moscow's claim that Damascus simply has no logic in drawing the wrath of the US military on themselves has been dismissed as a distraction. Tensions in Idlib are approaching boiling point in anticipation of a government offensive against terrorist and rebel groups. It's clear that any incident involving allegations of chemical weapons could be a spark for the outbreak of all-out conflict between multiple parties.
And scepticism seems to be growing at the possibility of a chemical attack. Britain's shadow Foreign Secretary Emily Thornberry now is pressing the government to verify any future attack with the OPCW before taking any potential action.
I hope the Minister of State will give us 2 assurances today. First, that if there are any reports of chemical weapon attack, particularly in the areas of Idlib controlled by HTS, that the government will not take part in any military action in response until the OPCW have visited those sites under the protection of the Turkish government, independently verifying those reports and attributed responsibility for any chemical weapons used. Relying on so-called open-source intelligence provided by prescribed terrorist groups is not an acceptable alternative.
They don't need to wait for evidence. They don't need to wait for an investigation. They certainly don't need to wait for OPCW or any other agency to apportion blame. They're already blaming the Syrian government. They're already saying that President Assad has authorised a chemical weapons strike. So, the strike, or the alleged strike, hasn't even happened, but blame has already been apportioned. So, what can we say apart from that it looks like very likely there's going to be a big strike, and this could lead to, obviously, a conflict with Russia and World War III, or the final World War, as we should be calling it. They're not addressing the Syrian Arab Army. They're not even addressing the Syrian government or President Assad. They're addressing the Al-Qaeda, their proxy armies, Al-Qaeda affiliates in Idlib. And effectively what they're saying is the hotline is open. You can call in your own airstrike. All you need to do is provide a pretext, however lame that pretext may be. Give us something we can sell to our publics back home, and we'll have the cruise missiles in the air. So that's the message. The message is directly to Al-Qaeda and its affiliates in Idlib.